Hello, hello. Today I have a special guest on. His name is Jake Cooperman. He's a commentator, MMA personality, host of Gloves Up show on YouTube. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate you for having me. I know we were trying to get this down and in the works for a while, so I'm glad that especially in front of such like a big card too. I mean, it was kind of like the timing was perfect, and that we were
I
talking
know
about
it
this
was,
earlier.
yes, we met at a PFL event and we chatted about going on together. So now here we are. Welcome, welcome. So
This is
glad you're
awesome. I'm
here.
excited. Yeah, I'm pumped up. I'm ready to talk. I know we had some good points we wanted to hit, so I'm ready to get into it. I'm fired up.
Yeah. I totally am excited. I definitely want to cover the UFC Noche fight because obviously, there's some great fighters on this card. It's going to be a huge event. I was watching some of the interviews with Dana White and he was talking about what a sensational show he has planned. And nobody's ever had a fight like this in the sphere. So this will be obviously a first time deal with him. And it's interesting. He called it the love letters to the Mexican or the Hispanic community. And he was talking a little bit about it. I don't know if you watched an interview, but he was talking a little bit about how he was going to kind of lay that out with, mini movies about the Hispanic community from beginning to end in between fights. And obviously, this is going to be just a sensational show. And he seems to be really proud of it. So, I want to talk about that because there's so many great people on the card, and I want to cover the Sean O'Malley fight and Valentina, and perhaps if we have a little bit more time, we can cover Diego Lopez and Brian Ortega. They're great fighters as well. So if we have a little bit of time, we can maybe wrap up with that. So tell me what's your thoughts on this show and the fights with Sean O'Malley. I'm sure you've had a chance to watch Sean O'Malley and of course Merab, who is kind of just a fire plug on the scene. Tell me what's your thoughts on this whole fight.
I think it's. I mean, the final three fights of the main, co-main, and featured bout
Mm-hmm.
are really solid. And obviously, I mean, I've seen tons of people saying, "Oh, why isn't the main event? Why doesn't it feature a Mexican fighter?" I actually love the fact that we are seeing a guy because if you think about who Sean O'Malley is as a fighter, I think at least what comes to my mind, at least as a guy that's watched him enough versus Pedro Munoz, versus Piotr Jan, versus all these guys, Aljamain Sterling, he's
Yes.
had these like highlight type performances. You want a guy like him in the spheres for a big event, specifically like this, right? Like you want him to be able to showcase his abilities and kind of have, like you said, it's like a love letter to the Hispanic community, but it's also
Yes.
this new and really ingenuitive type of venue for the UFC that I don't think they're going back to. I think that's also something Dana said. He's like, at least not for a while because of the costs and everything. You want to see a
Yeah.
guy like Sean O'Malley come back, or excuse me, come in and put forth a big and we'll get into our thoughts later about what we think is going to take place over the course of the fight. But you want him to be able to, or Merab, be able to come in and put on a highlight type performance for the fans. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Merab is anything but, I should say, regular with the way he fights. He's got a very iconic type of style that nobody else seems to be able to replicate or prepare for. And then, of course, Sean O'Malley is
Yes.
just showtime.
Oh, I agree. He's a total showman. I love Sean O'Malley. I love everything about him. He just is, he's perfect for the camera, perfect for the media, and he's an amazing fighter. And so is Merab. So I don't want to discount Merab at all. But they could not be, and tell me if I'm wrong, polar opposites in the fighting style. I'm thinking, you've got Sean O'Malley, a heavy striker. He's precise. He's got an amazing fighter IQ, and he just gets it done. I mean, he is just those combinations are incredible. And I'm thinking, Marab's going to obviously have to train for that. And then you have Merab on the other hand, who is a great grappler, but he's also a really good striker too. I watched him with what's his name?
Henry Cejudo.
So I'm thinking both these fighters are polar opposites in fighting style. That, in my opinion, what are your thoughts there? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it in some ways polar opposites, in other ways, similar. But I think when you talk about Sean, he's more of definitely of a rangy type of striker. He's very accurate,
Hmm.
he's very nimble, and his footwork is And that's where I think they actually share a similarity. But his footwork is off the charts.
It
And for
is.
Mob, he's very like straight, cardio based, wrestling heavy, and he uses his strikes to kind of set up takedowns. But yeah, I mean, polar opposites. But I think that's what makes this such a fun matchup.
I know, I know. Well, he's more of a grappler too in Merab, where I have not really seen Sean on the ground that much. I've seen him avoid takedowns for sure, and I've seen him be able to get out of a ground, situation. But I really haven't seen him really work that ground and pound kind of thing. So he's going to want to keep this up on his feet. That's my opinion. I just think that he's going to want to close the gap really quick in my opinion. He's going to come in and he's going to close that gap as quickly as possible, and he's going to take him out and, give him his papers, so to speak. That's just my opinion. I think that's probably how Sean's going to close the show, is quickly and fast and furious. But I want to know your opinion. What's your thoughts?
So I think there's a number of things that play into this. I don't know if you had seen this. Now, it's more of a rumor, so I don't want to give it too much momentum or too much steam, but there is something circulating because there was a picture that Merab had posted right on his arm that looks like staph. Staph infection, usually you can get from a mat. It's a pretty disgusting, thing that but it also it really zaps your cardio, because usually guys have to take antibiotics to get it cleared by the athletic commission. It'll zap your cardio. Now, I know, and we could talk independent of the staff for a second, I know that Merab's game is based heavily off of his gas tank, his ability to keep going. As I said, I think he uses strikes to kind of close the distance. For a lot of times, he'll do a 1-2 and then a shovel uppercut, and then he'll close the distance. He'll try to take you down. O'Malley, as I said, much more of a long and lanky sniper. So to your point, I think Merab comes out early. I think Merab's going to try and grab a hold of Sean as quickly as possible. I don't think there's any world in which he thinks that he can knock Sean out. And maybe I don't want to sound too, because either of these guys would absolutely dust me in a fight. But I think Sean is just he's too technical. He's too long. He's too inventive with his striking. I think Merab's going to want to try and probably get a hold of him as early as possible. And if Sean can maintain the distance and keep him at the end of his kicks, keep him at the end of his jab, use uppercuts, knees, anything, because he's very creative and inventive with the way he strikes. I think, to your point, and I don't want to put words in your mouth if this wasn't what you were saying, I think Sean has a very real capacity to get him out of there within the first 3 rounds via KO. That's 100%. My best guess.
I would agree with that. And there's a height difference too. You have 5'6" with Merab, you have 5'11" with Sean. It's really hard to get in with a tall, lanky guy. Sean, he can be very good at keeping the distance. He's going to have to really just like shoot in and just try to take him down quickly, because Sean's really good at avoiding that. So it should be an interesting fight, and I think if I have to predict, I have a prediction. If I have to predict, I think I think Sean's going to close him down in the first or second round with a striking game. Or if it goes to the ground, Merab might have a chance, but I'm going to predict that Sean sends him home, gives him his papers pretty quickly. That would be my prediction. Even though I love both fighters, I have to go with Sean.
Yeah, you can't say enough good stuff about Merab. I mean, I've done videos on him before, because it's odd. I checked his record earlier. He has 1 win via knockout, which was the Marlon Moraes fight where he got rocked. And I think Moraes fights in the PFL now, if I'm not mistaken, or Bellator. I know they bought Bellator recently. But the other win that he had, he's 17-4 right now. So most of the wins have come by unanimous decision. 1 win via rear naked choker or arm triangle. But
I think it was rear.
Not technically. Yeah, he's not known to be a guy that is really going to take you down. He's not like a Khabib type where he's known to take you down, strangle you. That's another thing. I think if Sean does get taken down, then we have to ask, how does he get back up? And if he can get back up, does that change the dynamic of the fight too?
Well, because Merab has cardio for days. Both of them do, but Merab has cardio for days. I mean, he is just a cardio fiend. So, I mean, he can get him on the ground, and Sean can wait it out, and he could just let him pound him. But I just don't see him being on the ground. I don't see Sean ever going to the ground. I think he's going to avoid that takedown at all costs and keep it a striking game if he can, and do it quickly.
And if he
So that's
can,
how I see it. Yep.
yeah, it was, yeah.
So you heard something about a staph infection?
Yeah, no, so there's, I don't know, we could probably put it up in post. I don't make too much work for whoever's editing this, but if you look,
Right.
there's a picture, and he might have taken it down because I know the athletic commission got real, and Dana got really mad at him for, posting a bunch of, he had a cut over his eye that he
Yeah.
was, taking out the stitches himself. And he posted a picture because apparently he has new merch and apparel now. He posted a picture where it's like right around here on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pretty nasty, what looked like a staph infection. Could have been a cut, but
God.
to a lot of people, yeah, and that would, I think, change the fight dramatically, tremendously, if he doesn't
Well,
have his cardio to fall back on.
well, for sure. But I don't even think they would allow you to fight anyway. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works. So
Yeah, I think it's
I would,
usually the commission has a hard no rule on that. That's why you see guys will hide it, like Benoit Saint Denis in
right.
Miami when he fought Dustin Poirier had staph on his head, but he wore a hat over it in the lead up to that one.
Hmm. I didn't know that.
No,
Okay. Well, that's kind of how I feel about that fight. I think it's going to be a great highlight. I think it's going to be a great show. I'm excited to see Sean come out and do his showmanship like he always does. He's just such a great guy. I remember watching him in the Contender Series when he was so tall and skinny, and he had this curly brown hair and just he looked like he couldn't do anything, and he looked like he couldn't hit anything, and then he just absolutely decimated people,
levels
and
him.
it's like, what? And just watching him change over the years, it's been such a great transformation of him coming into his own and building that confidence. I mean, he always had that confidence because I knew once he got in the ring or that octagon, he was on, and he proved it, man. It was just incredible to watch his growth and the maturity and the character he's become, and he deserves everything he's got right now. He's absolutely proved it in the octagon every single time, and I love him as a fighter, and I really love Merab. I love his personality. I think he's just a really cool guy too, and he's kind of had an online personality. He's kind of made himself into this online personality that people have fallen in love with as well. So it's going to be a good show either way.
That's going to be a great show. And, he has had, if you talk about like Sean O'Malley's career, not only has he got fights that have boosted his confidence, he's also
Mm-hmm.
really on his road to the title. You think about the path he's taken to get there. It's not like some guys that got pushed too early or that like, some people could say the promotion pushed too early where they didn't get the necessary. They had to jump up from, let's just say,
Yes.
the 13th spot to like 6 in the rankings, and then they get smoked. He had to go through Piotr Jan. He had to go
Mm-hmm.
through, again, I mean, I'm trying to think, God, I'm trying to recall in my head. I mean, just tons and tons of fighters where it's like, that Piotr Jan fight really prepared him for championship level rounds. Where it's
Yes.
like Piotr Jan and him are going back and forth. Some people think he didn't win that fight, some people think he did, but that's an experience. Pedro Munoz, excuse me, that's who I was trying to think of. Even that fight with Chris Moutinho, who's not even in the UFC anymore because Sean, I think he stopped him. But I mean, all that stuff, right? Going 5 rounds, going up against vets, going up against hungry contenders, like that stuff that you want to get before you get a title shot. And you saw when he gets in there with Aljamain Sterling, puts the lights out. That wasn't by
Right?
accident.
No, it wasn't. I was highly surprised about that. And then he laid his gloves down, didn't he? He's done, isn't he? Or is he still in the
Aljamain
game?
Sterling?
Yes.
Yeah,
He's
he
done.
fought Calvin Cater at 300. I believe that's the last time he fought. He got
Mm-hmm.
the win
Mm-hmm.
there. I think he was done at that weight class, is what he had said. I mean, it was something
Okay.
along those lines. Because obviously now
Yes.
Marab's coming up. Those guys are teammates, so he went up a weight class against that was Calvin Cater. So that's up at
Mm-hmm.
bantamweight now instead of featherweight, or excuse me, featherweight, not bantamweight.
Yes, featherweight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So another the co-main fight with Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso. Let's talk about that a little bit because that excites me. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but back in the day when I was watching Dana White, and the whole UFC growing, and behemoth of a fight club, he was talking about females that females, he said, I cannot quote him exactly, but he said, I don't ever see females fighting in the UFC.
Yes.
When are we going to see women in the UFC, man?
Never.
Anytime soon? Never?
Never.
And so that was really way back in the day. And I thought, that's so unfair. I think females would be really amazing. When Ronda Rousey came in and started armbarring everybody and just kicking everybody's ass, everybody fell in love with females fighters. And so Amanda Nunes, all of the female fighters that have come in and just absolutely dominated in this sport has been joy to watch. And, especially Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso are two that I think are going to make, this is going to be their trilogy this time.
Yep.
Their third fight. The second fight, it was a judge had an issue with some scoring, and so it was negated.
Split draw. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really think Valentina took that fight. I really did. Watching that fight, I think she probably would have won that fight. So you have 1-1 where Alexa took the first one, then Valentina probably would have taken the second one, and now we've got the third coming up. What's your thoughts on this fight, and how excited are you to watch them?
That's awesome. Because to your point, breaking ground in women's MMA, this is the first trilogy ever in women's MMA.
Right?
On the history books. And these two have shown, and we could get into the dynamics of this fight and how it's going to play out in a second, but we're blessed with a really, really competitive fight each time. Just the fact that there can be controversy about this going to a split draw the first time shows how competitive that fight was. And the first time when Grasso it was a round 4 submission, it was only because, and I'm not trying to take anything away from her win, but it was a mistake by Shevchenko. She threw a spinning back kick in range, and Grasso was able to jump on the back. So these have been razor-thin fights so far.
No doubt.
And you talk about, again, Dana going from, I'm not trying to but going from saying, we're never going to have women in this promotion ever. What are you talking about? To now their highest, I think that he's saying it's projected to be the highest gates since 205 in New York. That's insane. It just shows how long it's come, or how far it's come, excuse me. And Ronda, as you said, Ronda was the OG, the godfather, or the godmother of women's MMA. And you look at how far it's come now, we've got some absolute killers all over the place in all of those divisions.
Yeah, we never thought that Ronda Rousey would, ever be beat, right? Until Holly Holmes came and showed her who's boss. So that was very interesting to see her knock her crown off a little bit and humble her a titch. But it's just really come so far. Now it's not just arm bars, but it is everything. And these girls know how to grapple. They know how to strike. They know how to make it exciting. So I love watching women fighters, the Zhang Wileys, that, everybody in those divisions. They're just absolutely exciting fighters. And this one especially, I think, is super special. And watching these two go at it. Now, they were on the Contender Series. Weren't they judges on the Contender Series? So I think they became kind of fast friends, didn't they?
Yeah, they had coached on The Ultimate Fighter. I think this is the
Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, this last season, this would be the culmination of all that. But yeah, no.
That's why they're doing this.
It's interesting in that you do bring up a great point. They are very friendly. I felt that Grasso the first time around was a little bit more – she's hyper competitive. I mean, as all great champions I feel like should be. She, I didn't know if they were going to be able to kind of piece it up, but I remember the first time I'd seen them kind of hanging out together was at a Knicks game or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, they're just hanging out together. Like, that's such a nice thing. I mean, it's kind of like my opponent is not my enemy type of deal.
Right.
And, yeah, now they're ready to get in there and square off. And I thought, honestly, I mean, this one I have no idea what to expect because at this point, you think about it, I like to talk about these trilogy fights like this all the time. Both fighters have 9 rounds, well, probably 9 and change, 9 rounds of footage. Yeah, or excuse me, 8 and change rounds of footage to mull over, look at, find new openings, new tendencies. So this should be probably the best, I think.
I think so too. I think it's going to go, I think it's going to go the distance. I really do. I think they're going to just battle it out, and either somebody's going to knock somebody or submit somebody, or it may go to decision, but it is going to be an exciting game, or exciting fight. I'm super, super excited about this one. And I'm sure they're super honored to be co-main and do it in such an amazing place. And I believe Alexa Grasso is Mexican born. So it's kind of cool that they're doing the historic Mexican history. And so I'm sure that means a lot to her as well. So yeah, I'm very, very, very excited about this fight, especially. So those two fights, I think, make the card. And then you've got the third fight that I really think is going to be exciting, and I love this new fighter coming up and coming, is Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is an exciting fighter. Now Brian Ortega is amazing too, but Diego is unbelievable. He is
Allergic to having a boring fight. Allergic to having a boring fight.
I love his hair too.
Yeah. I don't know what type of hairstyle that is. I'm like, what is that?
Some sort of mullet goofy thing. I love him though. I don't want to take anything. It gives everybody his attention, like Sean O'Malley's, right? Got to have a cool hairstyle. And I'm going, what the heck? What kind of hairstyle is that? Just a bad haircut from childhood. But I'm sorry, Diego. I love you. But it gets people's attention. It gets people talking. But he came in. Yeah, he just comes in there and blasts through people. He's so good. And Brian Ortega, he is an amazing fighter as well. He's got a freaking amazing chin on him. So they can just take these hits that are just unbelievable. I don't know how they're still standing. So that's going to be one of those fights that's going to be a real challenge for both of them too. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, so the big thing that stands out to me is stylistically what we look at here, where Ortega is, and this is no disrespect, I think his striking has come a long way, but between the two of them, the less experienced and adequate striker. I'd say Lopez, the pressure he brings, his boxing early in fights, like you said, he runs through people, is going to be a lot for Ortega. We've seen Ortega in real deep waters early before. We've seen that he's tough. Obviously, his jiu-jitsu is on another level. I mean, the way we talked about Grasso, just slapping in that choke round 4 very, very quickly. People forget he had Volk very, very, very in trouble in their fight. I forget what round that was, but so his jiu-jitsu is third round. Yeah, his jiu-jitsu is off the chain, unmeasured by anyone. Now, Diego Lopez has pretty decent jiu-jitsu himself, but you see the two, it's almost like a half-filled cup and then a filled cup. And you take the two of them, you face them off against each other, you just switch it. So one of them's, got better grappling than striking. That would be, in my personal opinion, Ortega. And then the other side, Lopez, you have really, really solid boxing, a lot of power. And then, grappling's still good, but if it goes to the ground, you have to favor Ortega. I think the big thing that we're going to see here is, and I want to get your opinion on this, are we going to see a repeat of the Yair Rodriguez fight? Because Ortega, early in that, I think it was even in the walkout or the lead up to the fight, sprained his ankle, was getting pressured early, got knocked down, came back. Is he going to be able to do that against a guy like Lopez that pressures so heavily? And if Lopez can't get him out of there early, how does that change with Ortega's experience in the championship rounds and just with his longevity in the sport?
It's anybody's win. You're one strike away or one submission away from winning. It's such a hard one to call. I think Diego's just going to come in there and just absolutely pound him. But like we said, Brian is tough, man. He can take a lot of abuse in that octagon. I think it's going to go all rounds. I think it's going to go to decision. That's how I view it. But, it's anybody's win if they can get that one hit on him. So we'll see. I think Diego's going to go in there and just really be very aggressive in that first round.
And another thing to mention, and our producer, he's absolutely correct. He put it down in the chat. It's like this guy has youth. He has momentum on his side. That's another thing. I think and this is my personal and humble opinion, I think we could see probably a 2 or 3 round finish for Lopez. I think just with the way he runs through guys, and if Ortega is not – to me, Ortega doesn't fight like a guy sometimes that necessarily can match the intensity of who he's fighting, or especially with volume. Like that's another thing that Lopez is really, really good at, is hitting guys with volume. We saw that in the Max Holloway fight. Holloway was just, peppering him with shots.
God.
Yeah,
that was an incredible fight.
It was a really fun fight, but
I felt sorry for him. And he was taking so much abuse by Holloway. Right. I was going, just get it over with already.
And stop the fight, right? But that's the thing is, like, I think in that fight, he had trouble getting out of, again, I say this as a guy that's never fought in an octagon before, but in my personal opinion, as a guy that was watching, he just had trouble shifting out of second gear to get onto the gear to where he could be able to throw back and counter and slip it. He just didn't have that second gear. Now, things might be changed now, and we could be seeing a different Ortega, of course, as with any fighter when we go in there. But that, based off of the Ortega I've seen, I'm going Lopez on this one.
Yeah, I'd have to predict that as well. I never want to see another fight like the Holloway fight with Brian, and his eye was just meaty. It was just, I think it should have been called a little earlier. I think that Brian would have stayed there and just taken it forever and ever and ever. He was not going to go down. So he is a fighter. We all know that. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of fight this is going to be. I think it's going to be an exciting one as well. So I'm really looking forward to all three of those fights.
So another honorable mention would have to be Raul Rosas Jr. He's 19 now, and he entered the promotion when he was 18. He's been nothing but spectacular, 9-1. He's had submission wins, TKO wins under his belt. He gets a chance to fight at one of the coolest. I mean, I don't even know if I was 19, I'd be so nervous if I was in this position.
It'd be overwhelming.
But I'm sure that Katy's, pressure for breakfast. We wanted to give him a special shout out. And man, I mean, to be able to do that at 19, especially because some people early were saying that he was, he was going to get fraud checked and that he was an overhyped prospect. It's got to be for him. It's huge.
Well, I'm looking forward to that then. I'm looking forward to watching him to see how that performance goes. So, I think it's going to be a really good fight night. I'm very, very excited for the whole production. I hope everything goes off without a hitch. It seems to me that Dana's a little bit nervous about
on edge,
how everything's going to go off. With computers and all the animation, everything they're going to do, something always goes wrong. But I mean, it's going to be fun and exciting, and what a atmosphere to do it in. I mean, it's just going to be boosh. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in an IMAX theater where they have the theater all the way up and around you. Oh, someone also mentioned that in there it's going to be kind of a to-the-person experience too, where the seats rumble or they shake. Feedback, so I think that people can experience the whole thunderous experience of fighting.
Yeah.
So that should be really interesting to be there in live and see that. And I'm hoping to show the audience and their reaction. I'm really looking forward to the Noche fight, September 14th. Make sure you buy the PPV. I know I'm going to be watching it. I cannot wait. And I'm so thankful that I had you to come on and talk about it, Jake. Thank you for being with me, giving me your opinions on this fight. I love always hearing a little bit different opinion on fighters and getting your take on that. So I appreciate your time. I really do. We'll have to do it again. It would be fun to talk about the next fights coming up.
Of course, I mean, listen, I know I didn't think uncomplimented, but let's just say critical of Dana in the past. I am very excited to see what he pulls off with the production. I will be watching. I got some comments like that, like, oh, you're going to watch. It's like, of course I am. I'm a UFC fan. I want the UFC to do well, and I feel like this is going to be major ground in bringing the sport, hopefully, to the mainstream a little bit more, because we've been on a real good run recently. So
absolutely. So thank you so much, Jake, for taking some time out of your day to yak with me about this back and forth and express your opinions on the fighters. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time, and I hope you did as well. And I hope we can do it again. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm busy, but never too busy for MMA Hot Lips. That's the thing. I always make time.
You better. All right. I'm going to do a shout out to Jake Cooperman. Make sure you check out his show on YouTube, Gloves Up Show. He always does great takes on all the fights. So you've got to check him out and watch some of his videos. They are amazing. So thank you, Jake, so much. I so enjoyed this, and I hope to see you again very soon.
Yeah, we got to do this again sometime soon. I appreciate it.
Okay, you take care. Thank you so much for watching MMA Hot Lips. I had a great time tonight. If you like this video, please make sure you hit the like button. Also subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so you'll be notified when I launch my next video. Thanks again for watching MMA Hot Lips. Out.